Hi and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm actually going to use Lightroom to process this image and show you how to use the Lightroom Camera Raw feature, which is actually called the Develop module. So to get started, we're just going to go ahead and click at the top right. It says Library. We're in our library now. We're going to go ahead and hit Develop, and you'll see that Lightroom makes a few changes and brings us into the Develop module. Now, the Develop module in Lightroom is actually a form of Camera Raw, just like the Camera Raw that you would find in Photoshop, which is what I generally use, but I thought I would show for people who may not have Photoshop at this time how they can do some of these things straight away in Lightroom. So let's start off with straightening. Well, as you can see here, as I always tell people with images with a horizon, is to make sure that your horizon lines are straight. So first we're going to go ahead and choose the crop tool and just straighten it out. Now there's a couple different ways to do it, but as you can see that I am actually holding down the left mouse button and dragging my mouse back and forth until I can find a line that's straight across with the grid that we were shown. So once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to keep. So now we have a straight horizon line. One thing you can see straight away in this image, though, is that I definitely have some dust spots. There's one right here underneath the mouse. There's one here in the shadow created by this shipwreck. There is some probably buoy or boat way out in the horizon that's just like a speck now on my horizon. And I've got some dust spots here as well in the water. Now, it's interesting when taking long exposures, you would think that these dust spots wouldn't be notable, but in fact, they're even worse because they're the only thing in the image that wasn't moving. So they're usually more evident in a long exposure such as this one. So what we're going to do is actually get rid of them. And Lightroom has a great feature for removing dust spots. So this icon here, it's the second one. The first one was our crop tool. The second one is our dust spot tool. And then down here at the right, so once you've clicked that, you get a whole series of adjustments that you can do. But one of the things that's awesome is down here in the bottom left, it says visualize spots. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. And you can see that it changes the image completely to black and white, and it has this little slider. So you can actually choose how detailed you want to be about the spots in your image. Now the neat thing about it is spots are pretty evident when they show up. Here's the rest of the water, all these sort of lines and dashes. This is a dust spot. It's a circle. It stands out like a sore thumb. Here's the other dust spot in our shadow of the ship. Here is the dust spot in the sky. Here's our speck on the horizon. And apparently I have another dust spot here in the sky that I wasn't as notable in the color image. So what you do is basically get your brush, which is I'm moving around, and you make it the size you need. So you can make it bigger using the right bracket key or smaller using the left bracket key. These are the same keystroke functions that you would find in Photoshop. You go ahead and center your brush on top of the dust spot and then just left click, and you will see that it sort of tells you where it's cloning from. So let's go ahead and do it again and again. Try this guy and this one. Now you can see, because it shows you where it's selecting from and pointing back, where you're actually getting the copy or clone part of the image. And as you can see, it's pretty intuitive. For each one of these images, you can see that this one knew that it was a line and what to look for. It didn't try to take it just from the sky or just from the ocean, or we would have some really hump in the background, but it knew enough to go and find the proper clone, which is actually really awesome. So here you go. You can see it all here, and they're gone. I mean, it's amazing. To me, it's amazing. So the next thing we want to do, now that we've gotten rid of our dust spots, is go ahead and actually work a little bit here on the water in the foreground. It's very noisy, partly because it was taken well after the sun had kind of gone down, and so it has a lot of noise just created by the movement of the surf. But what I want to do is actually clean that up a little bit. So how I'm going to do that is actually using the gradient filter, which is this next guy. Now the way that this works is you'll see that you click on this. This is a graduated filter. You're going to be able to select and tell it exactly where to go, which is kind of neat. But what we want to do is, instead of manipulating any other feature such as exposure or clarity, we're going to leave this all blank and just come down here to noise. And we're going to drag the noise filter up a bit. It might be too much. We're not sure yet, but we'll see. And we're going to start at the bottom instead of the top. And we're going to just drag up. Now, the thing that you can see here is that it starts to, because it's a graduated filter, it is actually starting with the bulk of the effect is at the bottom in this case, and it moves gradually up through the top. And we can kind of control how far up our effect is going to take by dragging the edges. We can also change how much if the filter's working. So if you actually look, if I take it all the way down, you'll see that it's noisy again, and as I drag up, it starts to blur a little bit. And the blur is what's actually removing the noise. Okay, so I think that's good. Now we might actually decide that we want to add a little bit of contrast just to give the water some sort of texture and depth. And that's good there. So all I did is drag that slider. Again, I'm still affecting only this particular area of the mask. If I wanted to, I could actually pick a new one. So this now becomes inactive, and I could, you know, say for the instance, actually I do want to sharpen up the ship a little bit. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out my noise reduction, and I'm going to start my filter. I'm going to drag down so that I'm covering just this much of our image, which is for our ship, and I'm going to actually increase the sharpening a wee bit. Now if you want to see it, you can see if I take it all the way down, the top of the ship gets blurry. But if I bring it up, you'll see this is back at 0, and then I can add just a little bit of sharpening. Just make that a little bit better. All right, and again, I can control where exactly the effect is just by moving these edges. I can also rotate this if I wanted to. So if I had something that was on an angle, I'm able to actually only work within that angle as well. So I think that that's about it. Now, if I wanted to, I could darken my exposure. You know, I could do other things which would be maybe more traditional of a graduated filter. But in this case, you know, I don't think that that's particularly necessary. I just darken it, but I don't know that it's necessary for this image. But it's just another use of the graduated filter for other features within Camera Raw. And actually, what I will actually do is add a little bit of clarity down here. A little bit more contrast. All right, and that's it. We're done. Go ahead, hit done. It knows we're done. We go back into our library module, and there's our final image. Dust spots removed. This little buoy out in the horizon has been cleaned up, and our ship's been a little bit made a little bit sharper, and our water's been a little bit less noisy. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, Lightroom Develop module is just another form of Camera Raw, so you will find all the same features that you would find in Photoshop. And I hope you've learned something. Take care. Thanks for watching.